So you're in an interview and the interviewer says, so what are your salary expectations? And before your heart starts racing and you start thinking, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Well, congratulations, you decided to watch this video. So let's figure out how to calmly and confidently answer that question together. Okay, so before we get into it, my name is Cassandra and I help people go from hating work to happy work, and that includes getting a higher salary. So let's talk about what to do when asked, what's your expected salary, or what are your salary expectations, etc. Normally, if you're being asked in this manner, this is something that's happening hopefully early on in the interviewing process, often in a phone screen with a recruiter as like a qualifier, or on that first interview with the hiring manager. They will ask you about this. First thing you can do is turn it around on them and do it very politely and say, thank you so much, that's a great question. If you don't mind, would you be open to giving me a range just so I know a bit more of what you're looking for? Or just don't even talk as long as I just did and just say, thank you so much. If you don't mind, would you be open to giving me the salary range for this position? And then stop talking. Big interview rule in general, just get used to get used to just shutting up and being confident that what you said was enough. So just stop there. Really, they're asking this question because they want to make sure that you're going to be in their range, right? Are you going to be somewhat a fit for the position in terms of what they have to offer? Every company does have a budget. So you might want $1 million, doesn't mean this job can pay $1 million, right? Or you might think you're worth $1 million, doesn't mean they can pay it. So they're asking to make sure you're in range. So if you can flip it around on them and hear their range first, that's going to be helpful. And often if it's a recruiter, they don't mind doing that because it's going to make their job easier too. Nobody wants to move you through 8 steps of the process and then find out, this doesn't work. So they're going to be wanting to kind of figure this out with you. Then to figure out what you should say, it is helpful to give a range. And so to do that, couple of things. Look on salary websites, look on Glassdoor, salary.com, levels.fyi, among others, to find out what is the typical salary range for this type of position. But real quick, not just this position in this company or in this industry and in your area of the country or whatever, whether that's the US or another country, you can look up accountant. Let's take a real general job that's a lot of places. You can look up accountant. Well, an accountant, a top firm in Dallas, and an accountant for a small private firm in Wichita, Kansas are going to make different things. An accountant for the state versus an accountant at a large corporation, in-house versus firm. All of those things change what that typical salary would be. So make sure when you're doing your what's my competitive research on this, you're really looking at the competitive research that gets closest to the type of position you're looking for in all of those aspects and not just the title. Then you need to make sure you know exactly how much you need to live on. Now, I've talked about this in other videos, but what is your minimum viable income? You need to know what is that baseline do not pass go number that if the job does not pay more than this, I am going to be living off top ramen or going into debt. Figure out that number, right? That is your bare minimum. We don't want to live at that. So hopefully you can see okay, what's going to be that number plus a little bit more so they have things like savings and a more exciting lifestyle than top ramen, right? But know that do not pass go minimum viable income number so that you don't just take anything. And again, I've said this in other videos, that seems super obvious, but when we get desperate and we really want a job, we're yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll just say yes now and I'll figure it out later. That's not the place to be. Or when that dream company calls and offers us a job and then they're you can get $30,000 for it. You're wow, I can't pay my rent on that, but I really want to work at that company, so okay. No, you have to stay strong by knowing that number and knowing this will not work for my life. So figure out competitive research of what's typical for the industry, figure out what you need most, do those two things align, and hopefully that competitive number is higher than what you need, just so you know you're within track. And then think through benefits. Look on their website. What benefits are included? Does it say? Most companies will say. If you're working for a really small company, it might not. You might need to ask more questions. But look up, does it include, medical, dental, associations, bonuses, equity, like do they talk about any of those sorts of things? Look at that and weigh that into your options as well. If this is a really small company where they're like, hey, we're not, or maybe a startup where they're like, hey, we're not at a place where we can pay your insurance, like we're not covering that, that's fine, but you might need another $6,000 to $12,000 a year, depending on the size of your family, to make up that difference that you're now going to pay out of pocket. So be looking at those things. And then now when it comes time to answer, you've done your research, you know what you can afford, you're going to give your range or your ideal number. You're not going to give your minimum viable, but you know what it is. You're going to give higher than that. You're gonna give your number, and then you can say something like, this is my number or this is my range, but I'm very open to negotiating salary once I hear more about benefits, stock options, equity, bonuses, and other opportunities. So they know, like, this is not set in stone. Okay, so hopefully that helps you in how to go about answering this question. Remember, they are trying to qualify you for the position based off that salary. This conversation should come early, so have an idea before you even do a phone screen. If you need phone screen help, I have a video for you right here. And be ready by looking at competitive research of what is typical in your industry and in that company and in your location. Do your own minimum viable income. I'm gonna hit myself. Do your own minimum viable income and then some, and then look into benefits and see how that would price adjust accordingly. Then get ready to answer, and the best way to answer, practice that answer before getting on there, because when you get nervous, we're gonna get marble mouth and stumble over our words, so practice it ahead. And that's it for this one. If you need more interview help, you can find hundreds more videos right here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.